the world.
The weather, always something to talk about. We've seen storms hammering both coasts of the U.S. Around the globe, there's extreme weather. In some places, extreme seems to be on the repeat cycle. The same storm, Cyclone Freddy, revisited southern Africa for a second time. It's claimed more than 100 lives in Malawi and Mozambique. For at least one family in rural Mozambique, rushing water ripped their home apart. Finally, the roof collapsed and the walls floated away. Guy Taylor has been witnessing the wrath of this cyclone up close. He's a spokesperson for UNICEF and joined us from the Mozambican capital, Maputo.
We were on the ground when the storm hit, and that was a pretty terrifying experience. Extremely strong winds following rain the day before, and then very heavy rains in the days preceding as well.
So, help us understand the strength of this storm, Cyclone Freddy. What have you seen that really gave you a sense of this monster?
Well, when we came out on the morning after the cyclone, we saw many, many trees down. Many had fallen also on buildings. We saw roofs torn off of buildings, off of schools, off of hospitals, off of people's homes. And then when we ventured out into the surrounding countryside, I think the situation was even more serious there. Many people obviously living in quite rudimentary housing and structures built of wood, built of mud and adobe in some cases. Many of those have been completely destroyed and also very seriously affected by the flooding.
Yeah, as to that flooding, I gather many, many houses have been washed away. What do these mudslides look like?
The latest figures, which were released just a couple of hours ago, suggest that more than 16,000 homes have been partially or fully destroyed. So quite widespread devastation.
So 16,000 homes destroyed. Is that concentrated in one place? Or, give us a sense of where you've touched down in recent days and what you've seen.
This was in Quelimane, which is the city on the eastern coast of Mozambique in the province of Zambezia, where the storm made landfall and in the area surrounding that. So in addition to those 16,000 homes, there were around 600 classrooms which have been partially or fully destroyed, which is a huge concern for us at UNICEF. Obviously, children being cut off from education for potentially prolonged periods of time. We're also very worried about the risk of an exacerbation of the cholera outbreak, which the country has been facing since September last year. Currently, around 8,500 cases of cholera have been reported. And obviously, cholera is a waterborne disease, so there's a very real risk of that being made worse.
Right. So Cyclone Freddy, as I indicated earlier, it's the longest-lasting cyclone on record and falls into what meteorologists are calling a loop trajectory. Guy, I know you're not a weather expert, but I'm wondering if you've come upon this phenomenon and what it means as we look a few days or weeks down the road.
It's pretty clear that Mozambique is really bearing the brunt of extreme weather and of man-made climate change. Mozambique is hit, on an annual basis by these tropical storms and tropical cyclones, and all the signs suggest that they're getting more and more serious. And we've seen this time Freddy going back and forth, some projections even suggesting that it will bounce back for another pass. So the people of Mozambique, are really bearing the brunt of climate change here, to which they've really contributed very little.
How much does climate change come up in conversation in Mozambique?
It comes up a lot, certainly, and it's something which UNICEF and which the UN and which the government are certainly paying attention to. Mozambique is one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change. It has a very long coast, more than 2,000 kilometers long, and many of the cities are located on the eastern seaboard in very low-lying areas. So we, for example, do a lot of work in ensuring climate resilience of our programming. So, for example, we construct schools which can stand up to this kind of tropical storm cyclone, which won't get blown down as had previously been the case, and making sure that healthcare centres and health facilities are also built to withstand this kind of impact. But it really is a challenge, and it's very difficult for a country like Mozambique to be resilient against such a constant barrage of climate impacts.
UNICEF spokesperson Guy Taylor in Maputo, Mozambique, describing the destructive force of Cyclone Freddy, the longest-lasting tropical cyclone on record. Guy, thank you for being with us.
Pleasure.